Greetings everyone, this is Lodrik again in the game War in the Pacific Advanced Edition, and today I loaded my wheel setup for the first turn against Dojo. So we also normally, maybe if I have the time, we can also watch the first turn combat animation, but we will see how fast we can finish this talking about the setup now. It's I mean, of course, you have to set up a lot of stuff, like I said, and we can maybe now check every task force if we want, but this will be an endless story. You can roughly see how many task forces here are now on the screen, and I'm moving stuff forward, backward. But it's normally more or less a combination of what I discussed before. Bring army units to the location where I want to bring them, and also prepare a lot of. This is only all the submarine hunting setups. You can see all this golden hex, so everywhere is a sub hunter. You normally better prepare this so as soon as possible. Have sub hunters in every hex where you will run normally cargo and reinforcement shipping and all this stuff. Additionally, I mean, if you run troop transport convoys, then at least every convoy need 2 or 3 escort ships better. As long as you cannot make sure that there are no submarines, I would always add convoy escort. But additionally for this, you also need normally sub-patrol, sub-hunter groups all around of Japan, in this Yellow Sea area, around Formosa, Taiwan. These are the most important areas, maybe also here of near around Hainan and south of Saigon, and here in the Gulf of Siam. This area you normally must really have patrol ships running and check for enemy submarines. And this is a lot of, you can see here. It's not, everything is not perfect, but these are the basics, and then you can turn by turn or every 3-4 turns, you can maybe add more and more, depending how much effort you have to really set up everything perfectly at the beginning, yes or no. Most important is that I choose more or less some ports like here to upgrade the airfield and the port. This is my main port in the north, and this is the counterpart. But normally you don't must upgrade here because it's already a port of 6 and you don't need this airfields. So I organize that I more or less every ship with a speed of 10 or a light cargo ship, if it's not original in a task force, everything what is backup, I bring normally here. And then I run this speed of 10 cargo ships always this short distance. Because in this short distance the speed doesn't matter. And also the capacity will not normally be important. Then I send more or less all cargo ships I can find here to the source of Japan, to group them up here. It's cargo ships of 12, because they are the typical cargo ships for the Japanese. They're a little faster, they have often more capacity and range, so you can let them run normally between Formosa, China, mainland, Korea, and Manchukuo in Japan. So you bring resources here and bring supplies to China, and also, yeah, here's this basis you better can use also the speed of 10 cargo ships, because there's also not so much to transport. And I organize normally everything what is a real troop transport or everything is 14 or faster, I normally bring all to Hiroshima, or maybe also for Kobe, like these two bases, and Tokyo. But these three bases are more or less all for me uh, to send army units out. But Hiroshima is normally always my military harbor, so everything what is military stuff and I don't use, I will normally keep in Hiroshima. It's simply more easy to manage this. So over time I will normally bring a lot, if it's not active in duty, sometimes you must wait for some turns to group up enough warships to create a new task force. I would not send out two small task forces. You need a minimum fighting power, like at least minimum 4 destroyer plus 2 light cruisers or plus 2 heavy cruisers or 2 battleships. Better is maybe normally 2 capital ships, like heavy cruisers or light cruisers, battleships like this, and then add 6 destroyers. Only make sure that the speed is normally matching. Destroyers are normally always fast enough, but the rest can normally, can often maybe not match so well. Some battleships, you have this Congo class battleships of the Japanese. They are normally battle cruisers, but they call them here battleships, but they have a speed of 30. The classic battleships have only a speed of 25, so I would not match a Congo battleship with a speed of 30 with some smaller battleship. Normally, I simply would not do this. Okay, maybe some stuff why I set it up now here. Let's first talk about because maybe this isn't the north. The strike on Pearl Harbor. I choose to go northeast of Pearl Harbor and then make the strike. You can choose where you want to go. So if you have a task force with this special symbol, then it means this task force has normally other speed ability or only in the first turn. So some task forces, they have this special symbol, and it means more or less at the first turn they don't move with this speed. They have some other hard-coded speed. Like I don't know really where this task force can go, but this task force can go more or less at the first turn nearly everywhere where you want. It have a very long range, very far. Yeah. And other task forces also have this ability. You can bring them normally at not every location on the map, but a lot of the locations on the map. And so, yeah. And so you can normally choose with the Kiributai if you want to make an attack on Pearl Harbor, or if you want to make an attack on Manila, or maybe on Singapore or somewhere else. But keep in mind also that in the first turn, I think at least for Pearl Harbor, but maybe also maybe only for Pearl Harbor, but at the first turn you can attack Pearl Harbor and use torpedoes. Normally this is not possible. The game rule is if there's a port of 3 or higher, it is not possible to attack any ship inside the port with torpedoes. Then you can only use bombs. But in the first turn you can use torpedoes, and torpedoes have simply more damage potential. So even if you're not the greatest fan of the attack of Pearl Harbor, I would still say you better do it. And I try many different options how you can attack Pearl Harbor. I choose just this hex because it was more or less a calculation of speed and position, because this is a 2-day turn game. And I want, if I go here, I can make an attack. It's the 7th of December, or it's the first day of the war. And then the ship will normally return to Truk. And it will be just in range. I think it was maybe like here. And then we are still 6. The distance from my position to Pearl Harbor is 6. So I can make it the second day a second strike. And it's the third day I already out of the range of any counter strike. The risk is more or less only that as a second day, normally the Americans can make a counter strike, but in this case we make this 2-day turn, and Dojo agrees that at his first turn he will not change anything, so he has only the original setup. If you play a 1-day turn, then I don't know if you really want to do this, then you maybe attack from some position west of Pearl Harbor or north of Pearl Harbor and attack, and then you are out of range. Because even if you kill a lot here at Pearl Harbor, it's nearly impossible to really totally destroy the airfield, so there will be some counter strike if you are in range. And even if you kill many airplanes, there's still too many left. Yeah, you will have the potential threat of a counter strike of the Americans. So it's up to you. You can risk it to make a second strike. I did it only because of this 2-day turns. Pearl Harbor is simply there's simply a lot. I think 300 airplanes are maybe here. And if you can kill 100, then you are already good. But 300 airplanes you cannot kill. Anyway, so this is the original task force. I normally change nothing from the task force. I only kicked out, I think, some tanker and this stuff. What I really did is that what I did, I don't know if it's gamey. I would say no, because it's a game. We better go for this first, because I will forget it later. So the game, more or less, set you up with this kind of task forces. And original here is this Kiryupotai task force with a star, means it can go wherever you want. That's the first turn. And then you have this task force. It's called the Japanese Tanker Task Force. This was a task force originally with this oilers to refuel the task force after the attack of Pearl Harbor. This is the original setup. So it means you can make the strike on Pearl Harbor, then you will burn some fuel, then you can refuel this task force, and then immediately you can do and go wherever you want. And I say no, I don't need this. Because I make the setup that I can make at the first day and the second day a strike on Pearl Harbor. And these 2 strikes normally will consume 60, 70, maybe even 80% of my torpedoes and sorties of the carriers. So my carriers are already very low on sorties, and they maybe consume all the torpedoes. So there's not much really firepower left in this carrier fleet. So it makes no sense to really fill them up immediately and go for the next strike. They must return to some port to rearm ammunition, torpedoes, and all these others. So I must go back to Truk normally. The oilers will not help me. I can get maybe the fuel, but the fuel will not help me to make a next third strike. So I simply use this transfer ship from task forces and kicked here all out. I only keep the carriers, there's 2 support battleships and some destroyers. The tanker force I kick all out. What is the tankers? and move it to another task force. I create something, a new task force, and I put all the oilers here, and I say I don't need this oiler, I bring them back to Hiroshima, because oilers are at the end are military tankers. They are tankers, they can refuel your task forces in open sea, so they are more or less normally part of the navy and not of the merchant shipping. Because if you want only bring fuel or crude oil from port to port, then it's merchant shipping, but then it's a tanker. These are special military equipped tankers. So the point is why I did this. To ship here the oilers back to Hiroshima, I can use a normal task force. But why I kick out the ships and bring here all the other military ships inside? Because it's simply, this special rules is locked to the task force. You cannot delete this task force and build a new task force and then use these special abilities. So, if you set up your turn, you have given task forces, but not unlimited. I think there are maybe 7 or 8 task forces with this special speed rule. And you simply must use this shell of the task force and then decide what you want to do with this. So I use this tanker task force shell, kick out all tankers, and then I add other equipment, and then I tell them make a bombardment on wake. So these units will more or less, I think in the first turn or the second turn, make the bombardment in wake, not lake. And at the same time I have here an invasion fleet with normal speed. This is an original, I think, wake invasion fleet. What go with full speed, so they go with 5 per hex, so they can go 10 per day, so the range is only 17, so at the end of the first turn I already arrive at wake. So I make first the bombardment, I disable and stun the enemy, and then I make the invasion. Means I give Dojo more or less no reaction time. I mean, not that there's really a possibility for the allies to react so fast. If you strike in the first week of wake, you can do this. I don't see this as a perfect setup. Maybe you can better use this for somewhere else, but I just simply say I must or want make sure that I take wake immediately. You can also go and try the same with midway and try to immediately take midway in the later wake, because if you have midway, maybe it's not so easy to reinforce wake for the allies, but it's up to you. I only want to explain why I did this. Okay, and this I did with the original setup. If you load the turn, then you will see it's not exactly the same, but I use this. The idea is use the special rules and make the best out of this. And I don't want to risk these are all high level oilers. You can see they all have very high points. To lose them at the beginning will be really terrible. And yeah. Okay, the other question is here now, this is my task force and how I set up my attack. The fighters are more or less escort. You cannot do much more with them. There's a possibility that you say, okay, you use these fighters to make a ground attack. You can also normally, I think they can also carry 60 kilogram bombs with you. This is, I would simply, these are fighters. And these pilots are elite pilots, so you can see they have experience, they know how to fight any fighters, so they make a dogfight, they're very good. They also have a very good defense level, so they really are good for dogfights. They can make a strafe attack, but the strafe attack with a 0 is, at least at Pearl Harbor, simply too dangerous. There's simply too much flak power to risk a high level fighter pilot for this kind of job. Because what you want attack here, There are battleships, cruisers, destroyers, there's some submarines, yeah, but this is still too heavy to attack. You can maybe attack maybe the airport with them, but I make some test runs and I simply lost too many zeros to really be happy with what I killed. I lose too much for the effort. So I really only use this fighter zeros for escort or even for training. Okay. Yeah, because there's some rule. You cannot bring, I think, over 250 or 260 airplanes in one strike. This is, I think, something between around 250 is the maximum. And I make many test runs and I realize if I bring more fighters with me, I only use, I think, really one group to make the escort, and the others are all for training. Because if I bring more escort fighters with me, then often the escort fighters will join, but at the same time some bombers will be kicked out. And I don't want to risk this, so I choose the setup that I say I want the minimum amount of fighters, because it's the first day, and the second day there are normally not so many fighters in Pearl Harbor. And I want more or less have the maximum impact. Because the first turn you have the special rule that every attack will be successful. Means the pilot gets a chance to drop his bomb on the target. Then the next check is if the bomb will hit. First, because there's a rule like, first the pilot must take off. The aircraft carrier must be successful, be part of the attack. Then the next rule is the pilot must find his target. And this will be always 100% at the first day, so it will always be successful. And then the next is how much, or if the bomb hits the target and how much damage you will get out of this. So, and I simply want to have all bombs I can throw on Pearl Harbor and on the enemy battleships and cruisers and destroyers and whatever. I choose this. And you can see now here that I come with 10,000 feet, so I will make a dive attack. And this increase the possibility to make a hit. It will also increase the chance to get destroyed. But at the first day, and I also think at this first attempt, at least at the first day one turn, the flag I think is also not so efficient. There is some modification, so I don't know. But so I say, okay, this is the one chance I have to make, so I won't make maximum damage, so I choose the 10,000. I think later I change it back to 8,000. And then the difference is if you come under the 10,000, you make a normal horizontal attack. So you only fly over the target and drop your bomb like a normal level bomber. But if you come between 10 and 15,000, you will make a dive attack. So you dive on the target, go down to 2,000, and then you've dropped the bomb. Means the chance to hit is much higher. So you get more or less a very high, so you get now the 100% that you find your target. And then you have also in the dive attack a very high chance to make the hit. Then last question is then still, and what means this hit? This depends what you hit. Because this is a bomber can only carry 250 kilogram bombs, so, and it's a general purpose bomb, I think, no, most of the time. And even if it's an armor piercing bomb, you cannot hurt any battleship with this. This is impossible. But the other stuff you can maybe hurt more or less. Okay. And the torpedo bombers, normally you can bring them in 6,000 always. It's this first turn there's always there's something like a check. If your check was successful, this torpedo bomber will attack with torpedoes and will go down automatically to 200 feet and make a torpedo attack. And I think if the attack check fail, then somehow the game say, okay, this bomber not had the torpedo, it will change automatically to the 800 kilogram bomb, semi-armor piercing, and the 800 kilogram bomb also have the potential to hurt any battleship and everything else. So it's simply only the torpedo will have the main impact on flooding, and the 800 kilogram bomb have more or less more impact on fire and overall damage. But torpedoes always go much more for flooding. So, and if you can get the flooding over 90%, normally the ship is sunk. And so normally torpedo is still better than 800 kilogram bomb, but you really do. There's no way really to, I think, to change this. I think this is really pure by luck. Okay, so, and I think I give my torpedoes bombers all the order to make a port attack. Yeah, they all go for port attack. And the dive bombers, I think I split them a little. Mostly I also go for port attack, but I think two or three I also ask for make a airfield attack. And I think one or two I ask for making naval attack, because there are there's a one cruiser formation and some other stuff nearby Pearl Harbor, and I also want attack this stuff, destroyers, escort ships, something nearby. So this is what I thought was the best at that time. If I can go back, or if I try it next time, I would maybe say don't use the Val dive bombers for making a port attack. I would say you can make like one or two squadrons to go for a naval attack to attack everything outside of Pearl Harbor, and the rest I think better go for airfield attack. The bomb simply is not strong enough to really hurt a lot of the ships. And even if you hurt them, this is Pearl Harbor, the ships are inside the port. If you cannot sink them at the beginning, if they survive this first or second turn, they are immediately in the ship, in the port. They normally all fires will be over at this time already, and then the Allied player can normally put them immediately in the shipyard to save them. So what you cannot sink in the first two turns will not sink later. And this 250 kilogram is still no killer. For a submarine and a destroyer maybe it's a killer, but not for the rest. And I think it's maybe really better to go for airfield, because there are many scout planes at Pearl Harbor. And the Allies get still every day some Catalina scout planes, but not so many. And if you can kill a lot of these Catalina scout planes at the beginning of the war, then the Allies maybe have the bombers, but they cannot find you. And I think this is really an option I maybe not realized at that time. So I really would say this is better for making airfield attack or a navy attack, and the torpedo bomber, they go all for port attack. It's my idea. You can try it by yourself. Okay, this is this famous Pearl Harbor strike. Then I have here a lot of cargo stuff, like I said before. These two ports I use for normal transportation. This port is my short range, the shitty ships. And I use normally Hiroshima for all military stuff. And Osaka and Tokyo I use normally to transport units out. And then I have 3 air bases, 1 air base here. I bring 1 air HQ one air HQ here in the north. I bring one air HQ here in the source, Nagasaki, and the third air HQ I bring to Tokyo. And these are my 3 hotspots to train air units, pilots. Okay, about China thing I talked a lot. I think we will see how this will start out, but you can see I start to move some stuff. Like this units I move immediately. I want to immediately try to catch here Dojo's forces, so I don't wait with this. Other stuff I also, you must link, normally you must kill immediately this unit, oops, because here's a small Chinese unit, this is very weak. You need this railway free, that you can ship stuff from Manchukuo here down, or via rail. So I would suggest try to kill this unit as soon as possible. Try to get this road clean, because then you can throw supplies fly transport here. And you also need normally this base here, so you can have the railway here. These 2 bases, or this base is also nice. There's like industry and resources, but keep in mind that this is I think double or even triple defense. So there are not many units, and if the allied player bring here a lot of units, you must be a little careful. So use some recon to really find out what is here. And with Hong Kong, I want to only say this. You have forces in Canton, and you can check what is the garrison request, and then you can see there's 300 you normally can take out. And in Canton is this HQ. I would normally, this is normally a 3-star HQ, so it is an army. This is his 23rd army. And you have all this 23rd army stuff. So I move this out. I also take this division. You can see this is 400, but I normally can only take 300, so I would normally have 2 less garrison here. So I did this, and I told this stuff I cannot take out because then it's too much. I calculate this. This is not part of 23rd, so I keep it here. So you can see I keep this other stuff. At the same time, you have here some army. This is also 23rd army. And then I saw this, okay, I have a division in Canton, and I have this part of a division. It's also part of the 23rd army. But this is the 100 points. So I bring 100 points back to Canton. And then I can take, because then then if I bring this 100 points back to Canton, I can take 400 out. And this is exactly what I did. I bring 100 back, and then I can take this 400 out, because then I have this 400 to fight with me, not only this 100. And this is also the HQ, so I more or less said, I bring these forces, the rest of the forces I can already move to Hong Kong, but normally I will first attack if I have the HQ and the additional division nearby, because then they can really fight and easily kill Hong Kong. This I would do. And this is what you always must do. You must check what is the garrison request and where I have my forces, what is the army command, how they are linked to each other, and then you always try to optimize this. And this is only an example. You don't must make simply move all in. You can do this and try to use only these forces, but I would say no, I take 2 turns maybe more, but I bring the weak force back so that I have my garrison in Canton, and then I bring a strong division plus the HQ commander with me, and then I attack Hong Kong to make sure I take Hong Kong without any trouble. Okay. And I think I choose also to bring here my 15th army. We bring our units here to Singora, and then I will move here normally the west part. Okay. What is else? What is special? So let's talk about this strike on Manila. the first day the Japanese have this surprise strike attack, so you have a very high chance to hit something. And the enemy flag is less efficient, and I think also the enemy interceptors have less efficiency. So what I did is more or less with my army or air force here in Taiwan, I let the elite Zero fighters normally sweep the airports, because here is some enemy air force, and yeah, we have also air force here in Clark Field and also Manila. These three bases, they have normally enemy fighters. They are normally normal fighters. They train here, make scouting like this. So I choose my zeros to sweep them, to find them and destroy them before my bombers are attacking. So I have this is original one, all the same group. I break them down. Normally they are 45. And I let them everyone sweep one location. Manila, Clarkfield and Batangas. And I hope simply that my fighters come first in and reduce, I don't say I destroy completely the enemy air force, but I reduce the enemy fighters in the air. And then the next is more or less a concentrate port attack of Manila. And in this way, I choose to make this attempt on 100. Because I know the flag is very, compared to Pearl Harbor, the flag in Manila is much weaker. And the 100 have the option or the possibility that you make also how would it call this? Strafe attack. Means a bomber will fly, drops a bomb with a high chance to hit, and at the same time it also can use, I think, everything what is forward. Here you have this forward firing machine gun. I don't know if it really makes so much sense for the bomber, but I also use some. This is a second big fighter force, and I also let them make a port attack and very low strafing attack. So you can see they have skills for this. And the Zero have this 20mm guns. And these 20mm guns are just enough to hurt enemy submarines. And not to sink them, but to hurt them. And gives them some system damage, gives them some flotation damage like this. And of course you must have your scouts. If you have more recon information about the target, it's simply you have, I think, a higher hit chance to find the target. Not for the first turn, it's maybe not so important, but for later. So, and I really focus all my effort, I think, for this port strike. Because I know there's a very big submarine fleet in Manila, and even if the American submarines are not so successful, they're still hard to kill. Because the Japanese have simply no real good anti-submarine equipment. So I really invest more or less all of my effort with my long-range Navy bombers to attack the port. Because why the Navy bombers? The Navy bomber simply has a range. The Navy bombers have a range of 15 or 17. Here, this is a normal range 17. This is a Betty, and the Nell have a range of 15. Means if I start here from Takao to Manila, it's a range of 12. So every Navy bomber can use the full load capacity. This Army bomber, they are also attacking because you can see it's a range of 12. They just have the extended range, so they only can use two 250 kilogram bombs. It's just, I would say, just okay. 4 or 2, it's not nice, yeah, but it's just okay. But then you have this one, the Key 48, and they only have a range of 11. So they cannot attack Manila. So I say, okay, if they cannot attack Manila, then give me another target, and I say the next best target is Clarkfield, is just in range, because then they can drop the 2 100 kilogram bombs to attack this many airplanes. There's a big airport, and there's a lot of airplanes, and if you can damage, you don't even must kill them, you only must damage them. If they are damaged, they cannot take off the next turn normally. So, and if you keep them damaged, maybe after some time you really can kill some. And if you're lucky, your army force can arrive at Clarkfield before the Allies really can transport them out. Maybe not all. Maybe they can transport some out, but not all. Okay. And I think this is all. And this short range stuff, there's not really a good possibility to use them at the beginning. Normally, after some time, I bring this 5th Army Division HQ, because this is the Army Air Division. I bring them to Amoy, and then I use Amoy to bombard here stuff. But at the beginning, this is simply your port have a maximum load capacity. You cannot manage here too many ships, and this is no priority. The priority is bring everything what is possible to Manila as soon as possible. Okay. This is 2 big airstrikes at the beginning. Normally you must try to damage Manila, maybe not the port so much, but the submarines are the most important here. And in Pearl Harbor, your most important target are the enemy battleships and cruisers. There are also these submarines, but not so many. And in Pearl Harbor, I would also say it's important to kill many of these Catalina scout planes at the airfield. Okay, then what I can also say is here again, you have these task forces. Some of these task forces have the special ability of range. And then you must normally set up your task forces that you think it makes sense. Where you want to go first, and what is important for you, and you can see the most important is take San Fernando, but in the first turn. So this is a fast task force. So normally they are slow with only speed of 2, so they will never arrive here at the first turn. But because this is a fast unit, it can arrive here more or less at the first turn and unload immediately at the first day the units. So at the beginning of the next turn, you already can attack the base and take the base. So it means at the first turn I unload my units, at the second turn I take the base, at the third turn I already can bring the HQ here and unload the HQ. So latest at the fourth turn, so at the end of the first week, I already have Air Force here directly in Philippines. And then I don't have more this long range, then I can immediately use a short range attack my Air Force. This is the idea. Bring Air Force immediately here, because maybe not the main purpose is to bring here bombers, but maybe bring here fighters. Because the fighters can give cover your armies and your navy. So the allied player cannot normally use his bombers so easy and attack your shippings. So you protect your stuff. I would always say protection first, attack second, because at the Japanese player you cannot rebuild much. What you lost is lost. The allied player maybe can more aggressive and say they have the priority on sinking enemy stuff, because the Americans get so much stuff. If they lose something, after some certain time they simply get it back. But the Allies, the Japanese, they get nearly nothing back. So this is the shift. I always say I try first to protect my stuff before I try to strike the Allies. So, and then this is only the task force. You can see here, this is also fast. This is I use now for bombardment because they are also airplanes. I simply want, at the first turn, I want damage as much as possible, because I need 2-3 turns to bring my air force here. So the first 2-3 turns I must damage most of everything what is in Manila. I don't must destroy it but damage it. So for 2-3 turns it's not possible to run. In the moment the Americans can repair the stuff, my Japanese fighters are already in close range, and then my fighters are simply much better, and then I can kill them easy. This is the idea why I did this. Then you can see I go for San Fernando, and I bring immediately already here my army HQ. This is the HQ, but it's only part of this HQ, so the overall, you can see this is the 11th Air Fleet HQ, and they're loading. So this is you can see here, this is one. So this is a new task force, but already at this turn, at turn 1, before the war starts, I already create this new task force, and I start to load this stuff. So at the end of this first turn, it's already fully loaded and can already be on the way. And at the second turn, I take this base, and then at the end of the second turn, maybe the ships already arrive and start to unload. So, and at the beginning of the third turn, I have the HQ already here, and then I bring my fighters here. Okay? So, for the Japanese, the first week or the first 2 weeks, you really must have a plan. You really must know where are your units, how long they need, and you cannot really wait much. After the first 2-3 weeks, normally you can slow down. It's also not more possible to keep this all in track and to make this the steps so perfectly. But at the beginning, you cannot take the base and then realize, oh, I need a HQ, and then first start load the HQ. You better really have always the first 3 steps. You must have all in mind. Like if you play chess, you must always know the next 3 turns what you will do. Okay. And I think this is already this is and you can see the original the game say this is the Bataan. The Bataan is here, but I would say, holy shit, what I want with Bataan Island, there's nothing. Totally useless for me, no value. Even up to now I never take it. What I need is take San Fernando. So I bring these forces and say I go for San Fernando. And more for San Fernando. These are some only patrol stuff and more patrol stuff. So there you can see this is from Formosa, and this is nearby, and then you can see this is also a task force I remanaged. Normally this is I think a destroyer task force to make some support, but I simply put a lot of my invasion fleet inside, so also I can here arrive at the first turn already. This is a normal task force, and this task force, this was I would say not okay. I simply would also give all to San Fernando. I tried to land here also. It was successful, but it is not really necessary, and I lost 1 or 2 of these cargo ships I think later, and they are good cargo ships. Now you can say you can take a more shitty cargo ships, but I simply would not try this again. I would simply go only for San Fernando everything. And this is more here. And this is my invasion fleet. As you can see, the focus Formosa, everything what I have in Formosa go normally direction San Fernando. Then you have here also in Hainan a lot of task forces with this special ability. So I also use a make bombardment, soften the enemy base forces, land force immediately, Kota-Baro. And this I think also I bring also some forces here to land here immediately and then drive here south and then additional, the 15th Army will also come here nearby and support this unit. Why not? I want simply go down this west road and the east road at the same time. And this is also a fast task force is go directly for this base. And this is a normal new created task force with normal speed. You can see I bring more additional forces to Mersing. This needs longer. And this was my calculation was more or less I take this base, these two bases immediately, because I can make air cover. This is important. You can see I make escort and long range cap over the base of Kota Baru. So, and this is an attack on, this is escort for Georgetown, this is escort for the bombers and cap. This is a long range cap. It's only simply to make sure that no enemy fighters intercept or attack my landing forces here. And I think I make a cover here. Here I make also long range cap over the second base. So I use my army fighters to make a air cover for Kota Baru, and I use my long range navy fighters to make a cap over this base, because normally there's enough enemy or allies navy bombers and other normal army bombers to attack your shippings. So if you don't make this if you don't have some interceptors in the air over your bases and over your landing forces, then if you're unlucky, they can sink some of your ships, and your ships are full with guys, so you will suffer some stuff. And it's, I think, important that the landing is successful. It's two bases. And once you take this base, you can install here, like I did, you bring here air HQ, and then you can, from this base location, you can normally cover all of Malaya and use your zero fighters. Then you must install here fast air base. And then you bring Air Force here to Mersing to make sure that your a little delayed attempt to attack Mersing also is successful. Mersing is normally very important to take very fast, but maybe not at the first turn, but maybe at turn 2 or 3. But latest at the end of the first week. You need Mersing, and then you must normally cut the road. This is a faster way, and then you can maybe go for Malacca, or you can go for Johor Bahru. But you only keep in mind that this is a highway road, it's much faster, and this is only a normal road, so it's a little slower. So important is simply cover your landing areas so that enemy counter attacks you can intercept and let them suffer. Always, because this is really the critical point. You bring your navy ships nearby and the enemy can attack with torpedo bombers or normal bombers, and if you don't have any fighter, they for sure they will hit you and sunk some of your stuff. Okay, this is I think the most important. And this is only, I more or less I set up the navy bomber to find the enemy force set. So here are the two battleships from the British, the Pulse and King George, I think. I don't know more. One battleship and battlecruiser. And they normally come in here nearby to try to intercept your navy task forces, and I set them up like this. I say, if you find this enemy navy, this is why I say navy attack first with a range of 14, because I don't want to go to Singapore. I simply say, here's a line. If there's any ship enter this axis, then you can attack. So if they arrive this axis, attack. But I don't want to come too close to Singapore because there's no way that you can bring enough escort fighters with these bombers. And you simply don't have enough equipment for this. And if these bombers are nice to attack something, but if there's enemy fighters, and there are a lot of fighters in Singapore, so if they're coming too close to Singapore, maybe the interceptors from Singapore will simply kill all or most of your bombers, and then you win nothing. Okay. And this is why I more or less set them up in this way. Navy attack first, and if you don't find any Navy attack, make a airfield attack on Georgetown. Because if I remember right, in Georgetown you have, I think, the enemy bomber, and in Taiping, I think it was Aloha Star, I don't know, one of them have the fighters and one have the bombers. And normally you must try to kill them on the ground immediately. So if you are successful in destroying these two air bases at the first turn, then you can simply dominate the skies non-stop. So normally there's only these two bases have air force power, and there's a lot of in Singapore. So if you can you cannot attack Singapore, it's simply too far away, you cannot cover this. But Lower Star and Georgetown is normally easy or more easy to attack. And you have also here some bombers, so I can see airfield attack Lower Star, airfield attack Lower Star. And also always make sure that you have some recon stuff, that they first make some pictures so that you know what is there, then it's more easy to find for the bombers to find the target. And here you can see, and always make sure that you must find how you can attack best. So if you can find a target in normal range, of course go for normal range, but sometimes you cannot find this, then you must go for the extended range. But I would simply this is emergency stuff, and this is the beginning of the war, so you must now, at the first turn, you must bring all what you have at the enemy and try to simply kill as much as possible. But later I would not more go for this. I would simply say bring your army force or air force in range to go for normal attack, not for extended attack. What else? So, but this is the idea. Destroy here the air force, take these two bases, and already prepare at turn 1, also go for Mersing, that you can cut here all the forces. But the attack on Mersing, you must bring really enough force. Because if the allied players simply go with all these forces out of Singapore and try to drive you back to the ocean, then you have a problem. So at least you must bring your one division, better more. Yeah. Then you can see I bring already here the air flotilla. I start to load them so that I also have them very fast there. This is also a merchant, so I bring normally a lot of forces to these two bases at the first turn already. You can normally also go with the first turn all for Mersing and then try to bring all here and cut it. The only really problem with this is you simply cannot bring your fighters here. So everything what you bring the first turn here, you can land here, but immediately you get a lot of airstrikes on your invasion fleet. And the battleships or the task forces, the British Navy, there's a very high chance that the British battleships can find your fleet. You risk simply in the first turn already a lot to lose. And yeah, you can maybe say if you take Mersing as the first turn already, then for sure you can trap most or all of these forces. But this is simply one way more risky. You can try to bring everything to Mersing and go immediately for Singapore, that you take immediately Singapore in the first 2 weeks. But if you are successful, wow, yeah, then you can really save a lot of time. If you fail here and lose 1 or 2 divisions, then this can be a setback. Okay. Anything else? I would not say. I only use already a lot of the submarine hunters at turn 1, because I know there are simply a lot of submarines. I also choose to take this base because this is simply a good air base. Here's already a 3 airport, and from this you can normally cover all this area. You use some scout planes and you can at least see everything is coming. You can also install here some fighters to harass the enemy. Oh, I cannot see. And here are some pre-set up forces already with some. These forces are already prepared for some bases, so I bring them to the base because they already prepared for this. You must check this. What is a game is already prepared for you, and then yeah. Miri is normally only important to take. So this is a force for Miri, because Miri have a lot of oil, and it's a very center location. I also bring an air HQ here, because if you have an air HQ here, there's an airport 2 already, you bring it to a 3, then it's also fine. From here you can use your long range bombers, and normally all of this is in range for long range bombers. You can close the sea, this sea, you can also normally close here, and even the Java Sea. You can normally, with the Betty bomber, if they start from here, a range of 15 or 17, you can see all these bases are easy in range. You can go up to here, 17, it's just not in range. Here, it's in range, Davao, in range. So you can normally always threaten enemy ally shipping here. If you can bring here air HQ very fast, and you bring some navy bombers, Bettys are better because they have a range of 17, Snell 15 is also okay. Yeah. What else? I only would say, where they are? Here. You have 2 of these AMCs. They have high value, and you can rebuild them to very good transport ships. They have a lot of firepower, but they don't have any armor, and I think it's better if you try to bring them back to Truk. They are really too value to use them for radar. They are original, you can see they are AMC raiders. And the 1943 or 1940, I would say, yeah, this will make sense, but at this time, end of 41, all or most of the cargo ships, they have already some kind of protection. I mean, not an armor protection, but they have some guns. So, in every cargo task force you engage, we always try to shoot back. And if you are unlucky, then you get a stupid hit under the waterline, and then you have a lot of flotation damage already. Then you're much slower. And if you only meet one enemy destroyer, you are dead. Because these ships simply cannot fight with the destroyer. They have the same firepower like a destroyer, but they are slow, they are big. The destroyer is simply too fast, not easy to hit. So don't try it, bring them back to Truk, and use them for invasion fleets. This is maybe okay, but not raiders. This time is over. Yeah. And my submarines, you can see, I normally bring most of the submarines near the line, your coastline of California, and I think I have one set line here and then one second line here and maybe one here. Always only be at least 10 hexes away from any big base, because the most, I think there's Catalin, they have a range of 19 or 20, so if they want to make a sub scout, then they only can go half the way. So if the Catalina have a range of 20, they can only maximum hunt for submarines 10 hexes. So if you stay 10 hexes away of Manila or of Hawaii or any other base where you think the ally player can have a submarine hunter air force, then you are normally out of range. And I think the possibility that the airplane can sink a submarine is not so high. You can say it's small, but the problem is if they make a hit, and then they make a hit with a, I don't know, 250-pound bomb or something like this, one of these hits are simply so terrible strong that a submarine is then more or less often lost. So one hit is enough to sink a submarine. Even if it's only 1% chance, if the 1% hits you, then you are dead. Then you lose a submarine. So if you can avoid this, why not? Okay, I think this is my ideas about the setups. And then I will start now to play every combat elimination, and then we can talk about what happened, and then step by step. And then we can close this gap of 4 or 5 weeks we're missing so far. But for today I think it's enough. And let's see how this works out. Thank you all. See you again. Take care. Bye bye.